Well, just one. How did the Museum of Modern Art in Nevada find out about you and I guess show an interest in your work enough to want to show your work in America?
Well, I met a guy called William Fox. He's the director of a place called the Center for Art and Environment in Nevada. And this place, we know Nevada is not New York, but this particular institution is specialised in the relationship or collecting materials around the relationship between man and environment, or man's impact on environment for thousands of years. I mean, they haven't been there for thousands of years, but they've got Phoenician journals, ancient maps, archives from, Captain Cook and travellers and a lot of world-class photography, like aerial photography. They're interested in imagery and text about man's relationship between the environment and himself. And they've become quite well renowned in that area. Perhaps the best institute of its kind on the planet. Bill Fox is a kind of eccentric American guy who's, I believe, has had 7 wives. So he doesn't have any money because he's still paying alimony to all these people. But he's the most intensely sincere person I've ever met. And he recently sent a postcard saying he'd just been to dinner with all his wives in New York and he still had to pay for it. Nobody offered to help him out with the bill. But we travelled through the Pilbara actually going when I was doing that thing with form. And I was a bit grumpy about being not involved in that project. I love the project, but I was in one of my sort of moody, I don't want to talk to anybody kind of moods. Just wanted to look at the landscape, and Bill decided he wanted to travel with me for a few days, and he found out what I was doing with this long-term project and just thought it would suit this particular centre. Yeah. So they then asked for the archives. It's a series of diaries and journals and drawings and maps and photographs that I've been working on over the last 15 or 20 years, and they acquired them first and then wanted an exhibition of large-scale works too. Some of which are depicted on these little things here. I just put these down so let people know what the hell's going on over there really. And this project with Gary and Lara was, in a way, because I've travelled with Gary and Dave as well, just was to connect WA with what I'm doing over there. So it's a little bit of, not self-advertising, but just saying, well, this is what I'm doing in another country, and my way of letting people know what I'm passionate about and what's going on over there was to work via Jahroc and make that connection, because these are my friends who I travel with and they have similar passion for the places that I have a similar passion for. So anyway, that's how it came about, just a friendship that developed. He originally was invited out with a guy called Barry Lopez for the Perth Writers Festival, I think, a number of years ago. Any other kind of... Yes, Dave?
This is one perfectionist to another.
Yeah, obsessive.
I'm just really interested in your paintings. I know when I ever build something or polish something, I never ever get it absolutely perfect. There's always one little tiny thing. Does that ever happen to you with your paintings?
It happens in every painting.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I mean, there's nothing formulaic about the work that I make in terms of... I don't find it easy. I will get to a certain point where I drag my poor wife out and in a state of complete panic, saying, this is just not working. And there's always a point at which I just think the whole thing's going to fall over. And I'm never happy with the outcome, ever, and never will probably be, but, I think sometimes people think because the work is superficially quite refined, even though really it's quite crude. If you have a close look at the paintwork, it's quite expressive. The overall, I suppose, is quite, refined, but it is a real grunt. It's a real labour. I don't find it easy. And when you've got 4 or 5 foot of wet canvas, everything's flying about the place, it's panic. Because at some stages, half of that canvas is all wet at the same time. And I'm going to deal with that in the next half an hour. And so it's, So anyway, the answer to your question, no. Or yes, there's always, I've never satisfied, and yes, there's always, there's faults with all of them. I'm just looking around at them now, it's not going to tell you about.
thing, like when we do bits of furniture, there's something that I'll always be able to look at and go, oh, you know, but
Wish I had done that.
yeah, well, exactly.
You're never going to get it. You're never going to quite pull it off. You always think you're going to,
Yeah,
and it's always one brush stroke too many.
yeah,
You know, you just push it that little bit too far.
David, can you tell me what's wrong with the bars? You just...
Gary will be able to tell
We
you.
haven't got long enough now, we'll talk about that.
Probably a lot longer.
No, it's very good, we were impressed.
Any other observations? Yes.
Can you just I'm not an artist football, but can you just tell us about the water? I mean, where do you start? When you paint the rocks in and layer it over it?
Yeah. The rest, I don't want to bore people by talking for too much longer, but I need to talk to you just for a moment about my way of painting, because it's not what you teach students at art college. In fact, if they started painting like that, you'd burn them out. You know, because everything in my canvases is dealt with differently. It's like the land, the rocks are painted differently, the water, the sky is painted in a different way. Whereas most landscape painters, they have a style which they employ or apply to the whole surface of the painting. Do you understand what I mean? My work is almost styleless. In fact, I really don't like it. I've tried to eradicate any sense of style from the work. I just want to get the water to be water and the rocks to be rocks. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I've developed a sort of painting called tactile realism, I suppose, which the Americans are quite interested in as well, because it's almost a new way of painting, or a very naive old way of painting, I'm not sure which. And the water, I'll tend to layer, it's quite tonal. I'll just start from light, work through to dark, gradually adding, sort of glazes over and over into the painting, wet in wet. And a lot of the white ribbons of light that you see pulled through are scratched out rather than painted in with sticks or my hand or fingers. And a lot of, say, all the texture in those corals are just rags pushed into wet paint and, then worked in again with the brush after. So there's a lot of pushing and pulling in the work. So it's not as simple as, painting what's underneath first. The rocks usually go in last, and then I sink them beneath the water. Does that sound bizarre? So there's glazing and all sorts of things going on. You can tell, in answer to Dave's previous question about the process of, do I get things wrong? In as much as I can't even explain the process to you, because every time I do it, I've forgotten how I did the last one. So every picture is like, God, this is never going to work. How am I going to do this? Yeah, it's never clear cut. And sometimes I may approach it in a different way to what I did previously. Is that true, Doc? It's a bit of a mess.
Sounds just like us, mate.
I cut my fingers off. Yeah, it's in no way as organised as the outcome may be.
When you do the perspective, how far back do you have to stand to get it, or do you have to stand close to it all the time?
By drawing the actual geometric perspective of the painting is very simple. My drawing is very minimal. I'll just put 2 or 3 lines. I'm not a great. I'll do lots of preparatory drawings on paper. Things this big, but when I apply paint to the canvas, I'll just make a horizon line and work in the basic perspective, and it's very, very loose. And I'll tend to step back a lot from the painting because I want paintings that don't really come into focus until you're 9 or 10 feet away. Complete mess here. I want it to come at you, as you step away from it, and come into focus. Well, I love this space because I look a lot better than I do at home. Usually, we've got kids playing around, and dogs, and towels hanging off them, and coffee cups on them. It's pretty rough. They know what my so-called studio is like. It's a lean-to. Full of children and dogs, fishing gear. But it's so, for me, it's so lovely to see them in this space because I haven't really had a chance to look at these from this distance or I'm really quite pleased with the outcome. I'm not always. Some of my shows and thought, Really wish I hadn't shown up, but tonight. No, I'm really quite happy with this one. Any other?
Yeah, I've got one question. Larry, you've sort of got to a level of capability, or whatever you want to call it, to produce a bit like Gary and David with what they do, all this sort of stuff. If you were talking to a group of high school students and you were trying to encourage them to find their passion and to be enthusiastic about building a career, doing something meaningful, what would you say to them? Given what you've done and what you've been able to achieve.
Well, I'd eliminate
this one work.
And please don't take this as any, this is no criticism about the question or your observations, because I understand the sincerity of where you're coming from, but I would eliminate the idea of building a career. I've never ever been a career building kind of person. Your other observation about it is passion is absolutely acute. And I think, you're in the mining business. I bet you did that via passion rather than contriving to build a career. You work with people in Africa, you do good things, you help cultures and societies through example and so on. You may have been career building on one hand, but I bet the passion was overriding that. So I would say very simply, my family's creed is to put experience over acquisition. And life is short, and if you find what you love and don't let anything, this is an absolute bunch of cliches, but don't let anything steer you from it, including other people's opinion of what you do. You must bear in mind that in the WA art scene over the years, I'm a realist landscape painter. It's not the most fashionable thing on the block, right? And I used to be a contemporary artist working in London and cutting edge stuff, and I often joke to my wife that when I stopped selling out, people thought I was selling out. It was almost an inverse kind of thing. When I went back to find out who I really was, people mistook it as going the other way. They thought he was just starting to paint seascapes for money, but really I was just echoing back to what was my real passion, rather than trying to be some smart-ass contemporary artist running around London galleries, which was tempting because we could have been perhaps playing some sort of game that really in the end we decided wasn't our game. We just weren't cool enough anyway, but we just wanted to come home, go to the beach and paint what we want. So your observation just about passion. I haven't got to answer that question that you've been gone away. Any other observations or questions? Red wine time.
There you go. Larry, that was amazing. Amazing. Blew me away. It's just to have someone like Larry in the room and explain his works like this. We've run, I don't know how many exhibitions over the last 20 years anyway, since we've had galleries. And I've never had an artist stand up and talk like that about their work. So
amazing.
Very personal and really appreciate it. So
thank you.
Thanks again for coming. And now Larry's going to move to that table and dine. And I'm going to take my dirty napkin away. Dave and Joe are going to come up here. I'll go down there. We'll all just move around.
Can we take our glasses with us?
Yes, of course. I want to drink your wine. And just enjoy and chat. Have a great night.
Thank you.